What is free will and what is destiny? Do we really have free will if there's such a thing called destiny? And are we really destined to experience certain things if we have free will? Hello everyone, welcome. I felt called to pull some cards, and so here we are. Before I pressed record, I pulled 2 cards to sort of get a general idea of what the theme is for this video. And the first card that I pulled, the subtext says, embodiment is the deepest bliss. My body was made for enlightenment. And then I pulled another card, which the subtext writes, rebirth. Instantly, I just knew what I needed to talk about. And this is a topic that perhaps a lot of you in your journey might have sort of asked yourself and had the conflict, perhaps is the word, or question as to, is it destiny or free will? And this is actually one of the main things that I also came across, or questions that popped up in my journey as to what is free will and what is destiny. Do we really have free will if there's such a thing called destiny? And are we really destined to experience certain things if we have free will? And it seems like it's very contradictory, but actually they're not. Destiny and free will, they don't contradict each other. If you see it from a non-dual perspective, your destiny is your free will, and your free will is your destiny. And I know this might not make any sense to some of you, or your mind might be struggling to grasp and to comprehend what that really means. And it's not something for the mind to comprehend, to be honest. The more we try to grasp, the more we try to want to define and understand what free will is, what destiny is, this is it, that is it, this versus the other, the more we diverge from what the truth really is. And in my own experience, at a non-dual perspective, destiny and free will, they seem to dissolve. The question of whether it's destiny or free will actually collapses, and it converges into something that can't really be so directly labeled as this or that. At the end of the day, what I've realized is that every one of our destiny, the reason why we are in this human body, in this life, is actually enlightenment. And it might seem like enlightenment is something reserved for monks that live in a temple, or that resides in a cave, or for selected people. And only these people can achieve enlightenment. Like, Buddhas or bodhisattvas. But in reality, the reason why this life even exists is because consciousness created this forgetting in such a way such that we can remember. And that's what duality really is. You need the opposite to be there so that you can experience the other opposite. Otherwise, there is just no reference point and there's no way to understand what that is. Like, for example, what does happiness feel like if we don't know what sadness is? There's just no way to reference that experience of happiness or sadness. It's like, the whole saying of in a painting, you need the shadows and the dark colors to bring out the light colors, and it is indeed true. Otherwise, everything is just gonna be like one-dimensional, and it's just boring, So at the end of the day, this forgetting is part of the process of the remembering. And by enlightenment, I don't mean going somewhere like nirvana or, not being in this body anymore. What I mean by enlightenment, or what I feel to be true, is that we touch these states of non-duality, and from that point, we're able to see this whole life and everything that is happening in our lives, and not just in our lives, but on a collective level, from a higher perspective, where everything has a reason, and the reason is for expansion, the expansion of energy. It's like when you're trying to create or make a knife from, like, for example, a metal piece. You need that, friction to create something sharp. You need that friction to shape the object. You need the friction to create the fire. You need the chemical reaction to create a new compound. And so this whole life, with the whole darkness and light and, good, bad, duality, is to create the friction and to create like the chemical reaction so that there is even more new creation. There's expansion, the infinite expansion of energy. And that's why energy is, infinitely expanding. It's not just stagnant and it's going to be forever like this. No, it continues to expand. We're not meant to escape the body or get out of the body. When people talk about getting out of the matrix, it's not about not wanting to be in this life, not wanting to be in this body, but to live a life that is out of the influence of the system that tries to limit us and to stop us from remembering our own innate divinity. When we touch these states of non-duality in meditation, then what? It is exactly to use the perspective that we see from that lens into this life. And therefore, it is about embodiment, embodying these perspectives in our lives and using that to reshape the way that we view our lives, we view the world. And that brings me to another point about the whole you are the creator of your reality. And there was a lot of misconception around shifting realities or changing realities, or if we're talking about the theme of destiny, then most people's understanding of destiny is something that's fated to happen. If you want to change your destiny, if you want to change your reality, a lot of people think like, oh, I will then have to act differently. If my actions change, then the outcome is going to be different, which, yes, it could happen, and for most people it works in a linear way like that. But that is actually quite inefficient, because the truth is that your reality does not shift from you acting in a different way. It is not a cause and effect like this. When you touch the truth, when you touch the frequency of truth, or the frequency of source, or the frequency of non-duality, whatever you call that, in your meditations, for example, you get recalibrated, literally recalibrated in that space, in that field. There is no way that any conditioning or any false beliefs that have been programmed into you since you were like a child can stand in that light of truth. It just dissolves. And that's what I mean by when you bring the whole debate of free will, destiny into this field of non-duality, or this field of truth, it's like, what's the question again? Like, why are we even debating about destiny or free will? And in that space, when your whole worldview gets recalibrated, that's when your reality shifts. Because it's like you're wearing a different colored sunglass. Previously, perhaps, let's say you're wearing one with red lens, and so everything that you see is red. But when your whole worldview gets recalibrated, it's like you suddenly wear a sunglass that has green lens, and then everything you see is green or yellow because you're wearing, a different colored one, a yellow one. So it's not that you act differently and therefore your reality shifts, but it's actually because your perspective shift, therefore your reality shift. And because your perspective shifted, therefore you also act differently. So it's not directly caused from your actions, actually. And when you're recalibrated to truth, it's like there's no going back. There's no more doubt. There's no more fear, because you just know it within you that it's just impossible to, for whatever bad things that you have conjured up in your mind from all of the programmings and the limiting beliefs to happen, because that's just fake news. That's just the way to instill more fear in us to control the population. So that's what it means by enlightenment. To see through the illusion, to see the truth of it all. And from that place, the matrix cannot control you. It cannot tie your hands together, your feet together. There is no more bondage. And that leads me to another topic that is prompted by the second card that I pulled. It says rebirth. And I immediately thought about karma. Because, karma is something that there's not much said online except what you already know, which is that, if you do something bad, then, that bad thing is going to come back to you, and, in your next life, perhaps you're going to get the karmic retribution and this and that. Like, okay, that's just, one level of karma. There is negative karma and there is positive karma, as you probably already know, but it doesn't stop at positive karma. A lot of people think, if I do more good deeds, then, in the next life, I'll have a better life. Or in this life, I'll have a better life, and I'm going to do more good deeds. But in your next life, that means you're still coming back. And that means that there's still stuff to work through. If you're coming back to this human life, remember, our destiny really, from a very, very grand scheme of things, is enlightenment, is to see through the illusion that we are this body, and that, this life is this life, and that we're just here for, I don't know, like 70, 80 years, or maybe 100. And that's it to life. No, there's more to our existence. It is not just this body, this flesh, and this life. And it's not just about past lives, it's not just about our soul. There is something even beyond that is eternal, that's not even individualized. And that's where we all originate from. All our consciousness originates from. This huge consciousness, huge field of consciousness. And when you're able to see that, then, when your perspective gets recalibrated from that space, your actions actually doesn't come from a place of ego. Ego as in, just self-interest anymore. There is something beyond, and it's like an impulse. It's an impulse of, I just know I have to do this. And sometimes that could be sort of disguised as a desire so that we actually want to do it. That's how the free will part actually come into play. Now you can see that free will and destiny, it's working together. Like, or your soul or consciousness knows that this experience is something that you need to go through, or you need to go to this place to, I don't know, like meet someone, and then then the next few events can happen, and that all leads to you going on the journey home to yourself and going to journey home to truth, right? It's like it then plants it as a desire of wanting to go somewhere, wanting to meet someone. But actually, that perhaps, or most of the time, that desire is not really the main point. It is, something else, and that you won't know until you actually take that action, or go to that place, or do that thing. So free will, desires, all of these things, they are interconnected, so that we then realize enlightenment. So back to karma, positive actions and positive future lifetimes. That's usually the narrative. But realize that when you keep coming back to this human life, it means that you actually still haven't realized the truth. You still haven't enlightened yet. And therefore, the forgetting needs to happen, so that it then generates the opportunity. Everything is an opportunity to remember. So, having said that, what's beyond positive karma is actually no karma at all. You know, in the Yoga Sutra, when I was studying the Yoga Sutra, it is very explicitly stated that when your actions come from this field of truth that is more than just yourself, and it's not just being noble. When your actions come from that place, is guided from that place, there is actually no karmic seed at all. There's no good karma and there's no bad karma. There's no karma. And that's how we actually act without creating more energetic cords to this human earth school. The point is actually to not keep getting spat back out as a human, even though a human is one of the biggest blessing really of reincarnation, because of the level of free will that we actually have. I mean, as you compare it, if you compare it to a cat or a dog or just an animal, you know, we have such a powerful instrument, which is our mind. And our mind is actually not a bad thing, like a lot of people think, like, oh, you know, the mind, the ego, blah, blah, blah. But actually, there's the lower mind, obviously, and then there's the higher mind. And that's why life is even the way it is, the challenges and everything. It helps to really purify. There are all opportunities for us to clear that lower mind stuff. When we're able to access the higher mind, then that actually is a gateway to source, to truth, to consciousness. So the goal actually is to go to that point where you choose whether you want to come back and experience a human life or not, and not just get in a very simplistic way churned out by this whole wheel of samsara. So yeah, that's the part about rebirth, and bringing it back to the whole destiny versus free will thing. Now you start to like feel the frequency of, okay, does that even matter anymore? Destiny is not what we used to think of it as. Oh, my fate. And it's not that your actions change your destiny, really, because at the end of the day, you know, all of our destiny is towards enlightenment. And the whole illusion of free will, actually, yes, we have free will, and so we use it, right? Use this free will to our advantage, to choose always the response and the actions that are in alignment with this frequency of higher truth, really. I know that I keep saying the word truth, and maybe it's so annoying, but I don't know if there is another word to use to describe what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I just have to stick with the truth. Anyway, it's written literally in the Yoga Sutra that I'm sticking with that. So two last things from the two last card that dropped out. See every challenge, every situation, even if they are situations that have created tremendous amount of pain in you, try to see that, in fact, that is a fact, that is an opportunity for you to see it from a different perspective. Instead of being, you know, sucked into the emotions of it all, there's always a higher purpose to all these things, you know, as bad as they are, whether it's, you know, an unexpected passing of a loved one, an unexpected, accident or whatever. That brings me back to the topic of karma, actually. I mean, karma is a huge topic. Karma just means action. So perhaps it's an action that is not in alignment with your truth, right? And let's say quitting your job. That's apparently what a lot of people are experiencing right now. So you know that you need to just get out of that environment. But something in you, there's just so much fear of insecurity, there's just so much fear of this, so much fear of that, and you just keep hanging on, clinging on. That is the action that keeps generating the impression, the samskara, that keeps generating the tendency to keep doing the same action. That is the whole karmic wheel. That action creates the energetic impression, and then that actually drives the tendency to do more of that action, and it just keeps spinning. So to break that cycle, most of the time there's a huge event to sort of wake us up, right? So that we stop that cycle from going and going. And that could, be an illness, something small, and then you still don't hear it, you still don't see it, and then something big and something bigger, and then it's like a sledgehammer, and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, like now I really need to listen to this message, and maybe it's time to prioritize myself, my health, and my needs. So that whole negative thing that comes at you when you're not acting in alignment with the truth, you don't see that as a negative thing, that, oh, because I did something wrong and therefore, I'm attracting all these negative things. No. It's because that is an opportunity for you to then realign yourself back to truth. That is the opportunity. It's all directing us back to our remembrance. Everything, every single thing, period. See from that perspective, and everything will just shift. It will shift. The root cause of suffering is from ignorance. Ignorance as in not understanding that we are actually not just this flesh and body and this life. This is probably just less than 1% of what the truth is. 99.99% is something beyond this existence. And there is something that is eternal. When you're able to see that and not just hear it, but directly experience it for yourself, that is when the non-attachment comes. That is when, all of the positive, negative polarities stop causing the emotional turmoil in you, stop causing the drama. So to wrap up, when your actions are coming from a place of higher consciousness, higher truth, from that place you can very palpably feel that there is just this force of protection and this force of guidance, that you're always guided by something that you just can't put a finger on. Now the question is, how do we get to those states of non-duality, or these field of consciousness, field of truth? There are many lineages and many different cultures, all the different traditions have different ways. Whether you work with plant medicine, or whether you go to the path of yoga, that is the ancient wisdom that has been passed down from those time before the cycle of darkness actually came in, time moves in a cyclical way. Not in a wheel that traps us, but in an ascending way. And it always goes back to the light, and then it always comes back to the darkness, back to the light. There's always this, contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. It's like the heartbeat, right? You need that in order for expansion. And that's explained as actually the yin-yang symbol. Why in the yin-yang symbol, the black part usually have a dot of white, even though it's so dark, so dark, so dark. But there's always just this speck of white, this speck of light, this group of people that are here to restore the light. And then in the light, in the white bit of the yin-yang symbol, there's always a speck of dark. Even if you're in the light age or whatever, there's always just this group of people that's just playing their role, to give us that contrast. That's what it means, the yin-yang symbol. So there's no complete darkness that we never get out, and there's no complete light where there's no darkness at all. So in those times where people are very much like free of a lot of these lower mind stuff, and they're able to access this field of higher consciousness, this higher truth, that's where they knew that the cycle of time works in this way, and then they encode it in these sacred texts, ancient texts, transmit them orally. That's how it's passed down all the way to us. And I remember, was it 2 years ago, that I just felt this very strong feeling that there is this ancient tradition or wisdom that was coming into my life, and I thought it was gonna look like a certain way, but it completely was just not what I would even have expected. The whole word yoga and like the way that yoga is practiced, I'm like, how the heck is this? I know. But yeah, just somehow guided by this invisible hand, and to be able to learn these teachings and to receive these teachings. And that's what I share in my mentorship, in private mentorships. The techniques for breath work, for meditation, that are just so mind-blowingly genius to orchestrate that union back with source, back with the truth, union with that field of consciousness. And that's where the recalibration happens. That's where the downloads happen. Yeah, so it just blows my mind how these things just come. When they say the student's ready, the teacher, will show up. It's like, okay, I never expected it to be like that, but apparently so. Because it has impacted my life so much over the past 1.5, 2 years, that I just can't just sit there and not share this with people who genuinely want to receive it. So yeah, I do actually have spots open for my private mentorship if you are interested. There is an application form in the description box. You can go check that out. I have written out what it entails, and if you have any questions, just feel free to send me an email or a message on Instagram. Last but not least, we still have 2 spots available for our Bosnia journey that is coming up in June of this year. During summer solstice, we will be gathering an intimate group of us, just 5, visiting the Bosnian pyramids, and yeah, it's gonna be a calibration as well. If you are interested and you want some details, feel free to send to me an email. And that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.